JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, February 13th, 9 a.m. on this PPI morning. Talk quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at, go from there. PPI data came in just a tad hotter than expectations. Year over year number came in higher than expectations. The month over month, the core came in flat. So not much in a way, or at least not as big a or as hot a number as yesterday's CPI data. So I wouldn't call it a non-event, but markets kind of shaking it off. Futures uh, bounced around a little bit at the release and then started to head upwards. So a good sign here. Futures are pointing to the upside, or at least, well, S&P is up about 0.2%, and Nasdaq's up about 0.3%. And you look at yesterday, if you didn't know that there was a CPI data and it was just the end of the day and you're watching the news, you say, oh, market not too bad, all things considered. Market's still up green on the week, but we had that pull. So, all the way down to 598 on the SPY, which held and then just bounced for the rest of the day. The VIX was actually flat. US dollar was flat. The only thing really, yields had a big spike, but I had to think that was going to happen. Just a quick side note, and I keep talking about this Meta chart. It looks like Meta is trading on a different planet. Up 18 straight sessions, 19 of the past 20. Just remarkable. I mean, it looks like you wouldn't even know there was any kind of volatility. Uh, Impressive. And sometimes you have a value stock like a Verizon, a stock that doesn't have not a high beta name, right? It doesn't move much. Meta can move at times up 2%, down 3, and it's just pretty impressive. But all right, that's a side note. All right, so you take a look at the SPY. Just why don't I have my SPY chart up here? Oh, yeah, so down to 598, and the 50-day moving average is 598.14. So great sign there. Then you start looking at Monday and Tuesday's 605 handle. Maybe that'll provide some resistance on the way up. And I'd really love to see that 610 handle get hit in the next couple sessions. Tomorrow we get retail sales data. That'll be important. After the close today, I think it's Coin, DraftKings, Roku. I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, after the close yesterday, AppLovin, right? I mean, over the years, you see some of these high growth names in some sectors. I mean, of course, Netflix was my favorite back in the day, but some of these names, it's like what Newton's law: body of motion tends to stay in motion, right? Unless acted upon by another force. I guess the other force would be slow growth. I don't know, but just just remarkable. And when it was 100 and some bucks, you always have the bears out. Oh, it's overvalued. Then the last earnings all the way up to 3, whatever, and then it sold off a little bit. Same thing. Oh, it's overvalued, and now you look, it's just a monster beat and raise. So impressive stuff. All right, so that's overall market. Yield spiked yesterday, so the 10-year was up 2%. Well, at least it's not 2%, but from the previous day. But the US dollar flat as a pancake, so that's a good sign. All right, so now individual names. I talked about some of these on the rant yesterday afternoon, but Redfin, was rallying in the morning after the open yesterday. After it announced a partnership to provide rental listings for Zillow. I think that's a big deal. I talked about Trulia. Trulia used to be a publicly traded company that used to be a competitor to Zillow. And then Zillow bought them out, right? Actually, I think they merged, and then that's when the two classes of trading stock became ZG and Z for Zillow. I'm not saying they're doing the same thing here in acquiring Redfin, but it has to bode well, right? Um, and then not only that, if you look at the multiples, Zillow's an $18 billion company doing $2 billion in revenues. Redfin's a $1 billion company doing $1 billion in revenues. And obviously, there's different metrics, so it's not apples to apples comparison. But to me, it just shows that, hey, there's opportunity here for upside. So uh, take a look yesterday, the 50-day and the 200-day moving average are 857, 839. So it's back above that. It hasn't been back over the 50 since November. And then it was a great trader back in the August, September, when it ran. I think it was from $8 all the way up to 15, lower rate environment, things like that. I put on a watch list. I'm not saying that people are going to be thrown in a towel per se, but all these folks who've been waiting for mortgage rates to really tumble, maybe start coming to realization that maybe it's not going to happen for a long time. And if that's the case, you just accept, you get an adjustable rate mortgage or whatever. And I think the market maybe starts to heat up again. So we'll have to see. I was looking at the calls into March. They all look inexpensive on a risk reward basis, in my opinion. And I went and just got some inexpensive calls into next week while it was moving. I don't be surprised if I get some strikes. They haven't announced a date yet. I don't think. Oh, they do. Why don't I have this here? So they'll report earnings on the 27th. So um, if I do get some more strikes, it'll encompass earnings possibly the March 21st. That's Redfin. Dell was, well, I wouldn't say breaking out, it was up like 1% despite Supermicro being on a tear after its earnings. I thought Dell would start to play catch up. The 50-day moving average on Dell's 114. Waited for it to break. Couldn't break on a first try, couldn't break on a second try, and then closed at 1292. I mean, I added spec calls on the way up. Excuse me, I don't know I add that. Gonna need to break that 114. Also, I was looking at premiums on Dell. They don't look too expensive on risk reward basis either. Markets are closed Monday, so just keep that in mind if you're getting strikes in the next week. But maybe 122s, 123s. So I'll be watching if it breaks 114 today, breaks and holds for longer than 30 minutes or so. I'll look for some strikes into next week as well. Not much to add, not much color to add on Teladoc, Trip, Stratasys. Still riding freebies in those names, just consolidation. Uh, Still have potential bull flag breakouts, especially on TripAdvisor. So Trip's going to report, I believe they report next week. So still looking to get out the June strikes and maybe just roll those or just pull them back into the March. Less expensive, take some profits, already riding freebies there. Roku reports earnings after the close. Kind of comical because the Trade Desk reported earnings after the close yesterday. They reported a beat on EPS, but they missed on revenues, then issued weaker than expected revenue guidance, although their EPS guidance was higher than expectations. So the stock is getting pummeled. And it's funny because Trade Desk tumbles and so does Roku. Well, it tumbled from 85 down to, well, it was 81.50 in the after hours session. It's getting a little bounce here, but still around $82. But it's funny if the Trade Desk had posted a beat and raise and the stock soared, Roku would probably be flat. So just been frustrating the last year trading this on and off. I put on the watch list. Depending on what the premiums look like, I might look to close out most of the strikes and just hold a runner into earnings, just because it's one of those things that'll ruin my day today, tomorrow, and the weekend if it posts a horrible report and the stock just languishes. It has the potential, and it's done it before. It's ran up 30%. I'm not. I don't have a high conviction. The unfortunate thing is it's had beat and raises before, and the stock has sold off, even on a great report. So that's even more frustrating when the stock doesn't react. So in lieu of trying to drive myself nuts, I'll probably lock most of the strikes in before the close, just so I control some risk. Take that down. That's Roku. I have a lot of charts on Roku here. Oh, and just a couple other names of Unity. So with AppLovin running, not that App and Unity are exact competitors, but when when you look at the business for AppLovin, some of it ties into uh, programming in the gaming side of things, and because of that, usually Unity moves a little bit in sympathy and vice versa. Uh, I was surprised it's not moving as much this morning, considering the big beat, but it's up $1 now. But they report earnings, I believe, in 2 weeks. I put it on a watch. I'll have to check. But I looked at the premiums; they look insane. When I'm like, is something wrong with the premiums? Because even go into March, I think the March 24s, 25s, and 26 are very inexpensive on a risk score basis. I traded this back in November. Monster profits, couple of, I think, close to 10 bags. Some of that had to do, well, I had locked some in already, and then the Roaring Kitty tweet came out, and the premiums just went nuts on the U calls. It surprised to see it down here in the 20s again. I mean, it was down to 17, 18 back in November. I was going to wait possibly for about them, but I might look to get some strikes here today, and then with the hope to play some premium build into earnings, lock some in, cover cost, ride the rest. And that's it, folks. I'll be back. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.